everyone. It's officially 8:30 p.m. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. We got a couple. How you all doing? Happy holidays to you. Hope everybody's enjoying their time, and plenty of eats out there. We want to thank everybody for all the service and all the food they brought here. Especially if you guys missed the filet mignon and lobster tail, you got to get here a little earlier. Anyway, just so you know, we are going through a major renovation here. Our stage is going, everything, so we'll be moved around. So please be mindful to come in that front door for the next month while they're doing this. It's really going to be beautiful. In fact, we posted some pictures on our Facebook group to see that vision. It's about time that we stepped up in here, right? So anyway, with that, the world's greatest alcoholic, Nick, chairperson. Let's give Nick a warm welcome.
It's alcoholic. Good evening, everybody. Welcome home. Wherever that sign went, I don't know. My name is Nick. I'm an alcoholic, and welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Food and fellowship starts at 8 o'clock, followed by our speaker at 8:30. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. And this is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Yes, please.
I'm Sarah and I'm an alcoholic.
Yes, sir.
My name's Greg, I'm an alcoholic.
Yes, sir.
I'm Nate, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Nate. Okay, welcome to everybody. Oh, I'm so sorry.
There's been a lot of stuff in here, but I'm Andy, an alcoholic.
Welcome. Yes.
I'm Spencer, I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Spencer. Welcome. Hello.
I'm Saskia, I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome. All right. Okay. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship with anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor. Please raise your hands. Excellent. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Okay. Just a quick announcement. There's tons of food over there that was all donated. So if you see something you like, just don't feel shy to grab it and take it. If it's a whole bag of veggies, whatever, or if you want to ask, that's fine also. But the food's all got to go. So please help yourself to that. We greatly appreciate that. Our sister group is a big book study meeting that meets every Thursday evening at at Salem Church, and that's right up the street. And the coffee starts at 6:15. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. And anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD donations. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and our Facebook group. Subscribe and share, and you can find our speakers there. Join our Facebook page and keep informed, and you can share upcoming events and or meetings. And now with that, we have a good friend of our group, Jason, to come up and read the Just for Today Prayer of Recovery. Please give Jason a nice warm welcome.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jason. I'm an alcoholic. This is Just for Today Prayer of Recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. Please put your hands together and give a warm welcome to our friend of the Conscious Contact Group, Kelly. She's going to read the preamble for us.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm an alcoholic. And the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, religion, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. Thank you for letting me speak. And will you please welcome Kara, our Southern Belle. She's going to read the 12 steps.
Good evening, y'all. My name's Kara. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. Welcome home. The AA 12 Steps of Recovery. Number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Number 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Number 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Number 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Number 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Number 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Number 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Number 10, continued to take personal inventory when we were wrong and promptly admitted it. Number 11, sought through prayer and meditation to prove our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Now I'd like to invite Nick up here, and he's going to introduce our speaker. Let's give him another warm welcome. Woo!
My goodness. Just another quick announcement. We do have our hoodies available. If anyone's interested in a Conscious Contact hoodie, come see me or Ron after the meeting. They're a great way to stay warm this winter. So, with that, we are going to move forward. Okay, we have a 7th tradition which states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we'd like to pass around the baskets. And we have no dues or fees. We do have expenses, and this group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big books, CDs, events, and workshops. Just another side note, if anyone's interested in any service, we have a Sunday night commitment, an H&I rehab facility in Quakertown. Come see us afterwards, Sunday night at 7 o'clock. And also on Wednesdays in Hatfield, it's a big book meeting, a men's only meeting. Come see me personally about that one. If you want to get involved with that one, we could greatly use your help with that. Okay, there's absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. We also have a Venmo available. There's a QR code in the back, or I also have one on my phone. If you want to make a donation for the 7th tradition with Venmo, come see me or find that QR code back there on the table. Now, to introduce our speaker, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. Tonight we have Shawn T. from New Jersey. He's from the Design for Living Group of Neptune, New Jersey. Please give Shawn a nice warm welcome.
Hey guys, I'm Shawn. I'm alcoholic. Hey Shawn. Ooh, it's so good to be here. Welcome home to anybody who's new. I just feel so at home here already, and I just met y'all. My sober date is August 10, 2020. My home group is Design for Living Group in Neptune. It's a big book study, and we meet every Sunday. And I just love that group. I'm there no matter what, rain, sleet, snow, hail, Super Bowl Sunday. Easter, Father's Day, Mother's Day. It's just, I fell in love with the group, And I knew you had to have a home group, and so that's where I planted myself. And it's a solution-based group. We studied a book line by line, and I just love the speakers who come in and give their version of their take on the 12 steps as they go through it. I have a commitment at that group. I always have a commitment at that group. It kind of keeps me seatbelted to having to go. And right now I'm currently the chair, and I'm just having so much fun because now I'm the one picking the speakers. So I have control, you know, and it's so great, you know, because we have a matriarch, Mary Beth, and if anybody knows her, she is just something else. And I'm like, Mary Beth's got to speak about something about God. And so next week she's doing We Agnostic, so if anybody's down by the shore, next week, by all means come. You know, I have a sponsor, his name is Chad. He has a sponsor. And I have the privilege of sponsoring men, you know, and as I got through the steps, you know, I got free, but then you got a lot of time on your hands. And I can tell you, in my 20s, I did AA like a self-help group, and I drank again. And so this time, I had to do all the things, and I actually have this book. It says, don't let fear cheat me out of this. You know, there's a promise in there that says, like, I'll meet lifelong friends, and I'll have purpose, and just all this good stuff. And I was absolutely terrified. What do, you know, when you broke your life down to the ground, your entire life? Like, how are you supposed to be useful? What would you have to offer? And what I've learned is, you know, I grew as I went through with other men, and I really saw the program start to work in them, you know, before I saw it really work in me. And it's really filled my life in, and it's given me a purpose that I now realize is my real purpose on this planet, you know. And if you're like me, you walked around aimless and not really feeling like you fit in anywhere, and I found a place where I finally fit in, and I am so grateful. I mean, how I got here, not so good, you know. So I was born in 1978 into a family with a dad who worked and a mom who was a homemaker. I had an older brother who was 9 years older than me, and he was into dirt bikes and trucks and partying, and I wanted to be like my older brother. And so one of my happiest memories is in 1986. I've been crying and complaining and wanting this dirt bike because my brother had a dirt bike, and it was loud and it was obnoxious and it would burn out, and I was like obsessed, right? And so one of my happiest memories is, you know, my dad took me to this Yamaha motorcycle dealer, and we walked off the showroom with this like brandy new yellow three-wheeler, and I was in my glory, you know what I mean? And in thinking about it in the way of my illness, like, I was really overly concerned with what people thought about me. I wasn't even looking at where I was going. I was looking behind me to see who was looking. And I had an uncle point that out to me, and I just think it's hilarious. Not only that, and the burnouts, like, I had to leave my mark on the world. And I rode that thing until I broke it, you know? And up until that point, it was awesome. I had lots of babysitters. I was a very active boy with a very active imagination, and so there was always new people coming into my house, and they were all like kind of like family. And so I was raised by like a lot of people that my mom babysat and stuff like that, and I was blessed to have a lot of people that would take me out and just keep me busy. And as a young boy, I excelled. I did really good in elementary school. I didn't really have to study or anything like that. And then in 1985 or 87, we moved, and I had to adjust and find something new. And for me, it's like that's where it got weird, and I never really, that's kind of where it took a turn to the dark side. Like, I realized I need to feel accepted, and I had to work my way into being accepted and you know, we got jumped on the schoolyard, and I was telling my girlfriend recently, I was like, I had been watching The Karate Kid, and so I was like thriving in like fighting. Like, is that all you got? Like, I had like 5 kids beating on me, and then the next day, one kid grabbed me, and I just flipped him, man. That's something I saw off of TV, you know? I did like this hip check, and I grabbed him, and he was as surprised as me, because I never used it in real life. I used it on my little brother. And I watched him fly over me and get the wind knocked out of me, and then that ended all that. And then, like, after that, nobody really bothered me. But it was also at that point that I met a friend, and you know, looking back now, I understand it a little bit more. I met a friend, and certainly his dad drank too much, and there was violence, and he was a Vietnam vet. And so, but he was also given a lot of freedom and a lot of the toys that, like, I wasn't really allowed to have, you know? Like, he had a book bag full of guns. Like fake guns, but guns that you really wouldn't want to bring on a school bus. And so instantly we're getting in trouble. He brings them on a school bus. I think it's a good idea. And, you know, we're getting in trouble. The guns are getting taken. School's calling home. And, you know, it was with him that I kind of got into this whole adult, like a little bit, you know, I was watching stuff and stuff like that was a little bit more adult than my time. And I feel like in 3rd grade we were emulating Scarface. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but like I was emulating Scarface. By 13, or even as young as you could be to be left on a skeet range with shotguns, we were on the skeet range with shotguns, you know. And back in the day, like his mom was so cool. We would just have boxes of skeet, boxes of shotgun shells, and she just left us. We had no cell phones. So I always wanted to grow up. There's this thing in me that the adults in my life, and I can remember this from the parties at my house, alcohol has always been accepted in my family. So as long as you could keep your stuff together, and you weren't violent, then it was just accepted. There was no, you know, nobody really gave a damn. That's what the adults did. And the ones that smoked, they went behind the shed. You know, me being perceptive, I was like, what are they doing? What are they up to? Why does it smell? Like, I was really keen that there was also a hush-hush thing that happens behind the shed, and I was really interested in. But more, I think I saw the effect that alcohol had on the adults, and that was like they were more playful, and they were fun, and they came out to play from the effect that booze had on them. So for me, I was always interested in that effect before I even got to experience that effect. When I got into middle school, it was like you either got to work really hard to still shine, or you could just do nothing and get attention that way. And so I went towards the kids that weren't doing nothing with the broken homes, and we were all smoking cigarettes by 8th grade. And I was on a path of, I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and that's just the way it is. And so, as you can guess, that didn't serve me. That's one of the ideas that I brought into this life, is I'm going to do whatever I want, and that's all there is to it, you know. And so for me, more out of peer pressure and kind of like curiosity, I started stealing liquor and trying to get drunk before I ever got drunk. The first time I got drunk, I actually was amazed. I was way underage. And there was 2 things that I learned from that. It was at a Renaissance fair, and so we got dressed up, you know what I mean? I had a tunic and a freaking bullhorn, and you know, my babysitter was all decked out in like those bells where the belly dancers wear, and there was people in chainmail and making swords, and it was just this wild circus of people, and there was a lot of alcohol. You know, so I fell in love with that part of drinking, which was like, this is like an event, you know what I mean? And they just goofed around, and I got drunk, and I remember laughing and my legs falling out from under me is what and kind of rolling in the grass and not being able to get up. I didn't throw up or anything, but I definitely drank to the point where I couldn't stand up no more. And I was intrigued because here's this outside thing that I can ingest that way I can lose control of my body, you know. It was a power greater than me, you know. And so I didn't like take off into alcoholism or anything like that, but my thinking and my behaviors as I progressed into puberty just got more awkward and more awkward. I didn't really feel fit in. I had negative thinking. I was only satisfied by outside things for just a little while, but I was always looking for outside things to satisfy me. I didn't have a feeling of inner peace or inner okayness, you know? I just was looking for the next thing to take me outside of me. And what happened for me was before I even discovered booze, there was inhalants and stuff like that, and my mother found me passed out, pouring gasoline on me, I think on 2 occasions. Somebody had introduced me to it, and right from the beginning there was a problem. Like anything that really works, I don't have the power of choice or control over it. I just want to do it and do it and do it. And you know, I was so young, she was like, we'll send you somewhere. And I was like, it'll never happen again. And what I did was, it happened again, I just didn't do it at home. And so I kind of learned that really bad behavior too, was like, if you get in the way of me doing what I want to do, then I'm just gonna slide somewhere else where you don't know what I'm doing, you know? And that went on for a while until I actually noticed slurring my speech without doing it. And I kind of like, was like, all right, like you can only do it so much before you wind up brain dead. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that we weren't, as humans, meant to suck directly on a gas can. But it was a cheap fix. I can distinctly remember being like, all right, we got 97 cents. Nobody's gonna question us with this gas can, and that's what we did for fun. But obviously that wasn't sustainable. And so before my drinking, like it really had a lot of fun and it worked its way into my life, I had smoked some pot, and that was the thing that just changed the entire trajectory of my life. In an instant, I found something that could bring me peace and happiness and laughter and giggles and hungriness and stupidity in an instant. And I just was obsessed. The thing about it was illegal, and not everybody was doing it. And so drinking was like what the entire rest of my high school class was doing. And so we lived in the woods, and I can't tell you, I just saw these kids on Facebook got busted with a bonfire in the woods, and it was like the big deal. It made the newspaper, and that was like every single weekend. Most of us are like, what, you weren't looking for the headlights? Like, you're in the woods, everybody looks for the headlights. If the headlights come, we run, you know, and they weren't that smart, you know, or they put it on Instagram, whatever they did. But that was the fun part of drinking, you know what I mean? It was the girls and the fights and the falling in the fire and the having to walk home because you were too drunk and somebody left you there. That was the best. And it was in that I was also exposed to like this whole like sex, drugs, and rock and roll and the Grateful Dead. Like the Grateful Dead was still a touring band. I was like 15. And when I went there, I found that great event. A days-long event where nobody questions anything you do. It's like customary to drink at 6 in the morning all throughout the day and take whatever you can take to just keep it going, you know, and man, again, I already had the tie-dyes, but out came, that's like, we were listening to it on the way here. It forever changed my life. You know, I became an instant deadhead, and I fell in love with that whole, like, anti-rules. Like, I thought rules, another old idea I had was, like, people that go to work are suckers, and it's just, like, mundane and boring, and who would do that? And there's no fun in that. How could you possibly be happy with that? And I fell in love with this traveling circus of entrepreneurs, and it was like, yeah, like this, let's hope this thing goes forever. And I didn't want to do anything with my life. And what happened was, We hear a lot that alcohol, the steps do for us what alcohol did, you know, and so alcohol gave me a spiritual experience. Alcohol took me outside of myself. Alcohol made me feel connected with myself and with other people and with spirit, you know, and it worked temporarily, you know, and that's where the progressive nature of it is. In the beginning, it just really worked. And in the end, or along the way, it took more and more and gave me less and less of an effect. A friend of mine says, you know, in the beginning I would drink and there was lots of effect and no consequences, but as it kind of progressed, the consequences went way up and the effect that I got went way down. And I lowered my morals and standards and stuff as that happened. And by the time before I was able to drive, I got my license taken. I didn't drive until I was 21 because I was driving without a license, got in a car wreck, loaded, drove away from the car wreck, had to go to court. I just made amends for that 25 years later for the car that wasn't mine, that I was driving, that, you know, we got in a wreck with. So by the time I'm 18, I'm already starting to see rehabs, and people are also wanting to talk to me about my drinking. And being so young, I went to rehab and I stayed the first time, and I did notice more than anything I learned in the rehab was the H&I, and I heard that you guys do H&I, and I didn't say that, but 3 times a month I'm in an institution that I don't want to wind up in, you know, and H&I has absolutely, hands down, been an instrumental part of my recovery. You know, there's nothing like carrying the message to the people that are just like me. I'm on the firing line, which is where I belong. I need to see people, and I need to be useful, and there's a lot of heartbreaks and there's the occasional success, you know, and so I'm in this treatment center and H&I comes in, and I'm drawn to the people in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm drawn to the message. I'm not there yet, but I understand that there's something here, that there is a place that I can go. I knew it was at hand, but long before I was willing to surrender and take direction. Like, I was willing to put my pinky toe in, you know? My friend called it the hokey pokey. I put one foot in and one foot out, and I'm forever turning about. And I did that for a long time. I can't tell you how many times I went to rehab, got physically removed from alcohol, developed a plan on how I was going to not drink again, only to come out and drink again. This time it's going to be different. I could, you know, everything. I'll change the way I did it. I'll change who I did it with. I'll change the type. And always, it's just, I have that allergy. I have this thing in my body that I can't successfully use it one time, no matter what. And I try that experiment thousands of times, you know, and I always end up at the same spot, which is feeling remorseful, with a firm resolution that this time I'm gonna do better and I'm gonna beat this thing. And what happens is, when I'm young, I got a hell of resolve. You know, I can accomplish I got a drive in me. And I think that I can apply that drive to this. And it took until I was 42 to hear that thing, that I have an amazingly strong will. It's just not strong when it comes to combating booze. I lack the power to not pick up. And I did not get that memo. It took me a long time. In my 20s, fear sobered me up a bit. I had gotten incarcerated, right? And so, mind you, no matter what I told myself, I cannot do this on my own. I've literally only been sober. The only time I've ever been able to have any kind of sobriety is incarcerated, or in Alcoholics Anonymous. This is the only place I can get some traction. It's the only place I found people that suffer from what I suffer from, which is a hideous, it's a mental illness. You know, I'm strangely insane when it comes to picking up the first drink. I don't have that defense like somebody who gets burned on a stove. I just keep touching the stove, no matter what. I have this curious, you know, I just cannot, for the life of me, like it says, I can't think of the horror and destruction that I just caused and bring them feelings to life. I can't do it. It's part of it. And I didn't understand that. And so I go to this prison, and I'm determined to not go back to prison. And so I do 11 of the 12 steps. I missed the whole part, and it's on maybe page 14. It literally says, if an alcoholic fails to enlarge and perfect his spiritual life, he almost certainly will not survive. They'll almost always, whatever, I'm going to paraphrase, but the trials and low spots, that is life on life's terms. And it's right there in the beginning. And I just totally, I'm going to do it like self-help. I'll do up to the amends. I'll read the daily reflections. And I'll be a good guy. And that lasted until it didn't. I had everything. It was like my higher power is so kind. You know, I knew that God had put everything in my life. I was a low-bottom drunk, and I went right from that institution to school at night to being a dad to 2 times over dad, business owner, like wild stuff. I had everything that a normal person you would think would make happy. And what happened was and I'll never do it again, is I moved and I didn't get a home group first. I abandoned the very thing, the lifeline that was keeping me sober, and my mind said that I can do it by just practicing these principles without a sponsor and without a home group. And what happened was what was gifts in my life started to look like curses. And it's just the nature of what I have. And I knew it wasn't a good idea. Believe it or not, I had went my whole life and didn't have a Long Island iced tea. And my ex-wife had said to me, me and my girlfriend, we went to Red Lobster and they had this Long Island iced tea, and I was offended. She was like my sober partner. And I felt betrayed. And so I'm at a wedding. It was the perfect storm. I'm at a wedding with people I used to party with. I feel uncomfortable. And now my sober road dog, just told me that she had a drink. And so it was a perfect storm. All I said to her was like, it really tastes like iced tea? Talking about a Long Island iced tea. The first one went down great. You know what I mean? The first one went down great. I vaguely sensed it wasn't a good idea, just like it says in the big book, And I was like, whoa, what's in this? And when I heard the recipe, next week found me buying all pint bottles, trying to mix my own Long Island iced teas. And I could tell you, it's tricky. It's tricky at best. If you don't do it right, it just takes like, you went to somebody's grandmother's liquor cabinet and just poured it all in there. It gets you to the same place, but it doesn't have that nice iced tea flair, And so the next 10 years, the wedding ring went on the dresser with the picture of the kids and the wife in Vermont. It's me or it's. That didn't do it. Incarcerations didn't do it. Failed attempts to come in here. I would sit on the outside. I would come late. I would come late, leave early. I would just come in here thinking that I was going to get something by hearing it. I missed the whole thing about having to join it, And so that went for 10 years. And I'll tell you how God, me and Julie were just listening to Don Major. And if you ever heard Don Major, he's this guy from, I think, Kentucky. So he's got that southern draw, and he is just wise. And I forget where I was going with that. Whoops. Anyway, listen to Don Major. And So anyway, I thought I was going to get it by coming in here and hearing something. And I missed the whole point about having to do it. You know? Oh, now I remember. So this is how God showed up in my life. When I was in that jail cell in 2001, I met a guy, and he became my best friend right off the rip. And he had a big book, and it was like, listen to Jerry Springer, or we could go up in the cell and read this big book. And so we read the big book, and we're going through Bill's story, and he's talking about the hopelessness. You know, here goes my firm resolve, the goose from high, you know, self-knowledge is it. And he utterly failed, Bill Wilson. And so me and my friend are talking about, we both know at this point, this thing's kind of got us licked, but we're not willing to do anything. But so my friend is telling me, and like, these are the things I find attractive. He's telling me he goes up to Newark, New Jersey. His family wants nothing to do with him. He writes homeless and stuff on a sign and stands on the Penn Station landing and begs for change. And he gets enough money that he could run around to the point he has endocarditis and has to be like carried into the hospital. You know, and he's sleeping in all these crazy places, and there's just so much chaos. And believe it or not, I found it attractive. I was like, I'm not as bad as you, but somewhere in my mind, that's where God, believe it or not, had been planted the seed. Because when I finally, at the end of my running, when I had adopted his way of life, it was in that very way that I was broken enough to finally come in here and say, this is my seat. I'm not moving. I'm here for life. And it's just crazy the way that worked out. You know, I thought I didn't think I wouldn't be like him again. I thought it was attractive. But as I got older, and as I became unemployable, couldn't leave my mom's house, all I do is I hurt everybody around me. It starts to look like a pretty good option, is I should just go off somewhere and die. You know, I had been wishing for it forever. I just couldn't get this. And I tried everything. I tried doctors, I tried no doctors, I tried failed attempts to go detox somewhere and come back, and it had me. And so the very last place I was down in Camden, New Jersey, which is not a very nice place. And my best thinking was, I'm gonna live down here, I'm gonna get loaded, and I'm bound to die. It's just a horrible place and I don't belong there. And so I made it like 4 days, and nobody at this point wanted anything to do with me. I was absolutely alone. It was me and my decisions and God. And I was faced with an opportunity. I couldn't successfully stay loaded to save my life. And so I'm down there more sober than not, and looking at this. And you know, I was in front of I was also addicted to opiates, and so I was in front of this methadone clinic, and just a garbage head, and that was my only option, was go back on this methadone, which I had been on my whole life, drink on the methadone, because I can't successfully do anything by itself, and then die as quick as possible. And I was absolutely terrified. That was the moment of clarity. It was like, this is not going to get better, ever. You did this yourself. You can't point the finger at anybody. And basically the only option was change. And it took me another day, but I was walking, and then it just started pouring. And now I'm soaking wet, sober, and in this position. And it was there that an angel, just another homeless guy with a 20 ounce of Bud Ice or whatever the tall boy can, were sitting on a stoop. And I'm like, this is not working out for me. And he's telling me he's been down there for 5 years and he has nobody. And what got me to surrender was, I guess I was telling him about my family and that I had kids and a mom, and he was like, you know, you seem like a good dude. I don't think you belong here. Like, you should go to treatment. And that was God speaking to me through some other human, and I was like, okay. And I sloshed my way to Cooper Medical, and I was still on the fence. My entire life, I'd do good for like a minute and then I would just give up, and so I have never had success at staying sober. And so everything about me, my thinking, my actions has always taken me back, no matter how many reasons I had to not go back, and that's what I had to face when I came in here. And so I went in a hospital and I gave a half-hearted attempt to check myself in. I wanted to go to a mental institution. Throughout my life, I learned that if you want to get into rehab quick, you just go to the mental institution and tell them you want to kill yourself. Well, it turns out, in case you're new, you don't have to do that anymore. There's actually peer recovery specialists, and that's where another angel, there was 2 angels at that hospital for me. One was a nurse. I confided in the nurse that they've really helped me throughout my life, and I didn't really give them a fair shake. And I had a nurse cousin who had just hung herself in April, and so I was telling her that I thought they were really angels. And what she did was, all night I couldn't sit still, and I was trying to lay down like you would at the airport or something, and the security guard wanted to kick me out like every hour, and that nurse was like, leave that dude alone. And mind you, I hadn't showered in days, I had a book bag, I was homeless, I looked homeless, That was one thing. And then the second one was when I gave up like almost instantly, and I went to walk out the door and I called my mother and I said, they can't help me. I just gave this half-hearted attempt and I'm just done. And she said, well, why don't you go back to the desk and just see if they got a counselor or something. And that's when I was introduced to this peer recovery specialist. His name was John Best. And John Best came down, and within 12 hours I had a bed. And ironically, the bed I had was at a place called Maryville. When I told you guys I went to that first rehab, it was a place called Maryville in Williamstown. I stayed the first time. The second time I left within days. And that's a whole other story. But when I heard it was Maryville, I had warrants. And I wanted to do whatever I could do to, at this point, I kind of know how my disease operates, right? And so I have tried to trick myself or put the odds in my favor that I wouldn't leave. And so Maryville is located in the middle of the woods. And with warrants, it's like if you leave, you're the only person that's on the street. Not only they're going to call the cops, some other neighbor's going to call the cops that there's some ratty looking dude walking down the road in the middle of the night. And so there was a calm, and I felt safe going back there. And they had statues of, I guess, Catholic, like the Blessed Mother and stuff like that all around the property. And I really just felt like I was going to somewhere that was sacred, and a great peace came over me, that it was like finally over. And what happened to me was I had realized that the lying, the cheating, and the stealing just never served me. And by the time I came in for that last time, I made a commitment, the first commitment I've ever made besides that commitment to get loaded for a lifetime. This commitment was, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to cheat, I'm not going to steal, and I'm going to do the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it was in that rehab stay, which was only 13 days, that I started to have a psychic change. And the way that I knew was, typically, you go to rehab, by the time it's even nearing the day when you're going to get out, there's a fear on us, right? Let's just face it. I go and I talk in rehabs all the time. It's all good while you're in rehab. It's a whole other ballpark the second those doors change. And that's why I suggest always going directly to a meeting saying you're new, sit all the way down. Come all the way in and sit all the way down. Because you can't anticipate it. And the psychic change that started to happen for me was I didn't no longer care where I went. And I had the clarity to know that my decision making up until this point had rendered me always back to a drink and always to an even worse spot in my life. It never got better, it always got worse. And so I kind of made a commitment that I was going to do everything different. And so when the opportunity presented myself to go home or go to a sober house, I chose to go to a sober house. And I can tell you the humility, I'm a plumber by trade. And again, I had that business at one point, but I had no money. My teeth were broken. I hadn't smiled in 10 years. I had warrants, had no cell phone, no nothing, and a mountain of wreckage. And I was just so humbled. It was in Levittown. I had dated a girl in Levittown when I was a young man, and I was kind of like aware of the area. It's near Trenton and kind of in between Trenton and Philly. And I was just amazed that this sober house would let me in without doing a background check, without me having the money to get in the place, no car, no license. I had nothing, and I was honored to do it. I knew I needed to come and get in touch with God, and so in them early days, my home group now and every home group I've had has the set-aside prayer. And I was not aware of the set-aside prayer before this round of sobriety, but I can tell you that in the beginning, it was, God, please set aside everything I think I know about having a job, about what this recovery is supposed to look like, about what I'm supposed to feel, about how I'm supposed to act. I just applied that thing to everything, and I started in the beginning, I was praying to everybody I ever know who I lost from this disease and any kind of family member that I ever had, and the story just came on me on the way here. One of the coolest things to happen to me was at the first sober house, I got a job, and the job was they gave you like $10, maybe $12 an hour, and they would take you to this auto auction, and your only job, they would power wash the car, was to go around with rags and wipe. Now, I had known my grandfather, my mom's father, he was in that car business. And so what he would do is they would go to the auction, and he had 13 kids, and each one of the 13 kids would take a car and they'd go drive up the turnpike and they would drive it to New Rochelle. I heard the story 1,000 times as I grew up, And my mom, she would say one time she wound up with like the car that the state troopers would drive and everybody would get out of her way, and she got the biggest kick out of it. And so I wind up on that lot. And I just felt like there was something. I feel like there may be something, but I was looking for God out here, and I was praying like hell. And what happened to me was a series of events. It says that we're going to meet lifelong friends. I got stranded because I'm like, the newcomer, and I'll go to any meeting anytime. Like, if I can get a ride there, I'm going. And so I got stranded at a clubhouse in Levittown, 8755, or it's some number like that is the name of it. And on the way out, there's this white Jeep, and it's got like a pirate sticker on the back. And there's some guy, and I come to know him as his nickname was Fish, because he was a fisherman. And so Fish gave us a ride home. And Fish became my Ebby. There was something in this guy's eyes. They were the bluest eyes I ever seen. And he was talking the talk like I had never heard. He was making recovery seem like attractive. He's making it seem attractive, and I wanted everything he had. I couldn't even get out of the car. I was so hungry. I remember when I was fighting the hunger, I was like, I don't want to be rude, I don't want him to stop, I want to hear more, but I'm actually starving. And so what happened was I developed a relationship with him. And what he did was he gave me a lot of specific little tidbits that have kept me sober to this day. The first one is my mind was absolutely crazy. And so what he said was he would put on speaker tapes. And he gave me a couple names. He gave me Bob Darrell, and he gave me Sandy Beach. And I took his suggestion, and you know what? At night, when all I was thinking about was getting loaded because my mind was telling me this isn't going to work out, now's your time to go, I would put in these talks and I would hear about surrender. And I'd hear about people that went really far in Alcoholics Anonymous and still blew their brains out because what they suffered from wasn't really something from alcohol, it was this obsession with myself. my thinking and my plans and the way that I need life to turn out the way it is. And when I get it, I'm happy for 5 seconds. And when I don't get it, I'm not happy. So I'm just never happy and never satisfied, you know? And those were all key. I mean, I listened to the point where I almost memorized it, you know? And then we were getting to the amends part, and he mentions this thing, how free do you want to be? Like, how willing are you really? Like, how far do you want to take this? And God will move a mountain. You just grab a shovel, you know? And I started to hear about seeking to be in the sunlight of spirit. And these are all things that, like, I internalized very early in my sobriety. And I just want to talk, I don't know if this guy, Chris, is here, but I know about this group from a guy named Chris. And so Chris was the first guy to sit and start to go line by line through this big book. And he was really, we were going fast. Within 90 days, I was ready to go home and make amends to my parents. I was already starting to see the people who were suffering in the meeting and being drawn to maybe I can help these people. And he kept telling me, and I'll never forget it, he would say, we got to quit playing God. And it was like my job to be, and he'd be like, why? And it was my job to say, because it doesn't work. I had no clue what he was talking about, but it would take 2 sponsors later for me to realize, what are they talking about? I am not playing God. I don't even think that high of myself. I'm certainly not playing God. But what I've come to learn and finally internalize is that I'm not playing God. I'm just living life as if there is no God. And I have my entire life. And I'm absolutely off-center. I'm egocentric. I'm off-center. You know, I think it's me and then the rest of the world. And that is my disease of alcoholism. That's why drinking is a solution to this internal thing I have. You know what I mean? This thing was here before, and it was here after, and this is what needs to be addressed. And what it means is I'm going to have to change my behavior. And it's not fun. It is not fun. I jumped in a relationship right after Chris that I shouldn't have been in, and I was blocked for 2 years. I got myself into a situation that I couldn't get myself. I was powerless to get out of this. I now know what's called codependency. I mean, it literally just killed somebody I sponsor. And I found out that I can make a person my higher power, and when I don't get their approval, I am devastated. And what I learned was that I am responsible. You know, there's a book called Codependency No More, and it took me 4 years to get to that book, but a therapist suggested it, a friend in AA even. And I found out I am absolutely responsible. I am responsible for my happiness. I am responsible for my spiritual well-being. I'm responsible to have a sponsor and be transparent with that sponsor. And it took some crushing blows. But what I got out of that was another level of okayness, whether I have a girlfriend or not. And then I'm able to have a successful relationship because I don't need somebody to make me feel okay. I do have a certain amount of okayness. And that was like a whole other frontier. It took 4 years of being blocked to get to that, and the lowest I've ever felt. And so, how do I play God, right? Apparently, almost unbeknownst to me. Like, I arrange life to suit me. I got an old idea that I'm not supposed to be uncomfortable, ever. Right? I had it when I was a kid, and it showed up later, you know? And if I just had enough money, or the girlfriend acted right, or I got the car, all the outside things, then I'll be okay. And the plain truth is I'm not. I'm never satisfied. And when it doesn't go my way, I double my efforts. And to get my way, I'm kind, I'm gracious, even modest and self-sacrificing. And then when it doesn't go that way, I may be mean or egotistical, whatever the case may be. Still, I'm just trying to get my way. And if everybody would just act right, we'd all be happy, including you. And what it says is I step on the toes of the fellows and they retaliate. And I don't even know why, because I'm so blinded by my perception. My perception is it's askew, you know, and his sponsor used to say, and it's above everything. So by the time I'm at this point, it's no longer about alcohol. It says above everything, I must be rid of this selfishness or it's going to kill me. Now the problem is, I think this is God's sick joke, because I'm inherently selfish. Everything about me is selfish. And the sick joke is, okay, you can even go on to the bitter end, blotting out the intolerable situation, or you can accept spiritual help. And spiritual help looks like I have to be of service to people. You know, I have to self-sacrifice. I have to not be the most important. And it's really a gift, and not everybody gets it, but I am blessed to have experienced this gift, because it's in the giving that I receive. You know, we just were meditating to that St. Francis prayer, and I can't tell you, since early sobriety, I found the St. Francis meditation, and I would just close my eyes and just want to be a channel of peace. If you're like me, there's nothing that resembles peace inside of me. Every day I wake up an untreated alcoholic. I have to do things to find peace. I have to connect to God every single day. But what I have experienced is that this program is an absolute way to become a channel of peace. You know, I'm not much, I got 4 minutes, so I'm not much of like a Christian or anything like that. But my experience, Bill talked about the teachings of Jesus, but he was kind of mocking it, like not too closely followed by his followers. But what I found here, and I know for me, was I was blind as hell when I came in here. You could have showed me the truth and I wouldn't have been able to see it. You know what I mean? And what I had to see was I had to see people get better in front of me. I didn't even know that I could get better. I'm blind. But if I see the light come in your eyes, after I did my first fifth step with a man, I knew God better. Because I had felt used by God. Nothing I said came from me, it came through me. And when I left that first fifth step, I knew God better, you know, and I knew that I had been given a gift. And so, I came in here blind. And when I got rid of some of that selfishness and I started to take on this harder service, then I started to see what my true purpose was, right? Came in here deaf. People have been telling me the truth for years. You know what I mean? You suffer from something that you can't get yourself out of. I couldn't hear any of it. The message of Alcoholics Anonymous has been presented to me since that first time in rehab. And I couldn't hear it. But when I was beaten, and I surrendered, that I no longer knew what was best for me, and I was finally willing to take directions. Poof, my ears opened. I heard I suffer from a disease. I'm not immoral. There's nothing wrong with me morally. I mean, the lying, cheating, and the stealing, obviously. But I'm a good person. But I suffer from an illness, which I had no choice or control. And nothing but a spiritual awakening is going to help me with this. And I was finally beaten until I could hear. Now, I came in here with no teeth, hepatitis C, nothing. I had been walking outside and sleeping outside. My organs were failing. I couldn't walk. You know what I mean? And what Alcoholics Anonymous gave me was, and I'll plug my home group, a Design for Living, right? A way to walk. And it took months, but eventually, there's so many promises in here. One of them being I could look the world in the eye. Alcoholics Anonymous gave me the hope that I could have a new life. The third step says we were reborn, and I needed it, and I wanted it. You know, and I did everything I could to get there. And I can tell you that, and I'll close with this, is the man that's in front of you, doesn't even remotely resemble the man that came in here. And if the man that walks through that door doesn't change, the man's gonna drink. You know, and I came in here and I sat all the way down and I took the suggestions begrudgingly. But what I found was, I found freedom and heaven. You know, the problem was removed. You know, I was on a different footing. My roots grasped new soil. And I'm able to form and have relationships, which I was never able to have. And I just, if you're new, like this thing works, it's so hard to take direction. But just, it's in that taking direction that we're given a new life. And then none of it makes sense. And none of it seems like it's going to work, but it truly does. And thank you for having me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian. I'm an alcoholic. The group would like to thank Shawn first and foremost for coming out here, delivering an incredibly powerful message of hope and recovery to our group here. Couple quick announcements and we'll wrap things up. As always, we have food and fellowship every week starting at 8 o'clock here, so feel free to get here early, join us, have the coffee, the donuts, whatever other food we get donated, put out. If you do want to get involved in service with this group, we could always use help with setting up chairs, greeting, cleaning up the kitchen, whatever you feel like doing to help out. It's always appreciated. And as Nick mentioned, this group is all about service. If you want to get involved in some of those H&I commitments, we'll be out there tomorrow, Sunday night, so you can see me, see Ron after the meeting if you're interested in that. If you want to help us out with a little bit of service work right after the meeting, could always use help getting these chairs put away. It is customary for us to thank our speakers as they always come here on their own time and expense. Usually we do form a line in the front here and we thank our speakers on a personal level if you care to do so. But I want to thank everybody for helping out with the meeting tonight, with our greeters, our readers, and most importantly, let's thank our speakers one more time. And if you do care to join us, we have a beautiful way of closing down the meeting. We're going to circle up. Circle up. Just like the old days. And if you do care to join us, we will close down the meeting as always with a brief moment of silence for the still sick and suffering alcoholic inside and outside of these rooms, followed by our Lord's Prayer. Our Father,